right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of BAM GPG. And today, Bryson, we're just going to do a quick kind of update, kind of recap, talk about the off season so far, where we're at, what we've done, what we haven't done. Just a real quick update on that. But first, if you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe. You can follow us on YouTube at BAM GPG or on TikTok at BAM GPG. So, Bryson, first thing I wanted to talk about here today. So, it's kind of the only thing we have news on right now is the Jaire Alexander situation. So, as you know, we haven't moved on for him yet. There's been a lot of trade speculation this offseason so far. Nothing's really panned out. He's still on the team with Green Bay. And there's still rumors floating out there that he may not be a Packer in 2025. And that's the way things were kind of trending at the start of the offseason here. But now that we're, moving along, progressing throughout the offseason here, we haven't done anything to really address that cornerback position. Yeah, we brought in Hobbs from the Raiders there, but he's not a cornerback one. At best he's a CB3, CB4, kind of a spot player. You bring him in there on certain rotations, but he's certainly not a guy that's going to backfill a Jaire Alexander by any means. So, and I guess what I'm getting to, Bryson, we haven't done anything to, replace him if we do move on from him. And, I'm looking at this year's draft class. Yeah, there's a lot of young talent, Bryson, but there's not that guy that you can plug and play right away as a CB1. Maybe Travis Hunter out of Colorado has that potential.
Yeah, but he's not going to be available when we pick.
No, absolutely. Exactly. He's going to go early in the first round. And when I say early, top 5, top 3 picks in the first round there. So he's not going to be available. There are some other guys. You got that one guy, I believe, from Notre Dame, Morrison. I like him. Benjamin Morrison, I believe. But again, he's a collegiate player. He's coming off a pretty serious injury this past season for him, so we don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. So there's a lot of question marks on some of those guys coming out of the draft. Is there a lot of talent and potential? Yeah, absolutely, but that doesn't necessarily always translate to the NFL. We've learned that with some of our first round picks here.
If we get a young corner, we might want to let them sit behind somebody for you, be cornerback too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why, when I think about it, it doesn't make sense to move on from Jaire at this point. Yeah, I know he's, carries a pretty hefty contract, Bryce. And so this year his dead cap hit would be 24.6 million. And then I know in 2026 his dead cap hit is $27 million. So that would be something to where if you do keep him, it's probably one of those things where you sit down with him, his agent, try to restructure that deal, get more of a team friendly deal to get him back in the building. And again, the hesitation on Green Bay's end and the frustration on his end as well is he's missed a lot of games over the past 4 seasons. Bryson, he's played 34 games. That's, I believe, an average of about 8.5 games per season for him. So that's not great, right? So you'd like to see that improve, but maybe that's something you can, restructure his deal, make it more incentive based on games played, something along those lines. But for me, I think we definitely need him back in the building. Our secondary needs it. I would like to, if we could, I'd like to spend some of those early picks in the draft on, your premier positions. Like, cornerback is the premier position, but I'd like to spend it on premier positions like an edge rusher, right? Interior defensive lineman, something that's going to improve that pass rush. So if we can keep Alexander, I feel pretty great about our secondary, right? With X-Man, you got Alexander, and then you got a rotation of guys at CB2, CB3 as well. But when I look at the draft class for edge rushers, Abdul Carter's going to go pretty high in the draft. I have him top of the board. A guy I love a lot, and maybe if he falls to the right position, maybe it's something Green Bay can pull the trigger and move up a little bit in the draft. Mike Green out of Marshall, Bryson. So I like him a lot. I like his body size. He's 6'4", 248. His last season, he graded out in 92.4, and I believe he had 17 sacks for Marshall. So I like him a lot out of Marshall. That would be a guy, if he fell to the right position, possibly you can move up, give up some capital, and draft a guy like that. So interior defensive line too. We're gonna need to shore that up too, which is another reason, if we could shy away from having to focus on our secondary, really bolster that interior or that edge rusher and interior defensive line. There's great guys in the draft. One guy that, certainly could be available when we come around to pick that I love a lot is Derek Harmon from Oregon. So he's a big body, 6'5", 310, graded out at 83.9 this past season. And again, he had 5 sacks and 43 hurries on the quarterback this past season for the Oregon Ducks. So that's another guy I like a lot for the interior defensive lineman. So a little bit, I want to kind of backtrack here a little bit, Bryson. So let's get back to Jaire Alexander here. So we know after, I believe it was week 10 with the Bears, right? He played like 1 or 2 snaps and then he was out for the rest of the game. And really, we didn't see him the rest of the season after that. Um, but, for kind of the snapshot we did see him from this year, he had a pretty decent season. He graded out as 75.2. Coverage grade was 78.3. He had 2 picks. One of those was the pick 6 against Tennessee, if you remember that one there.
Yeah.
But, I guess in conclusion, based off of kind of what we've done this offseason and what I see available in the draft, I don't think we're going to replace his level of talent this season, right? Certainly, you may be able to find a CB2, CB3 in the draft with the upside of becoming a CB1, but Green Bay's looking to compete in 2025, so we need to field the best team we can, and that includes, in my opinion, Jaire Alexander still being on the team because of the lack of activity we've had this offseason. I don't know if you feel similar in your thoughts on that.
Yeah. If we could, I wish we could get Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter would be a dream, right? Absolute dream. So, don't think that's going to happen. So I'd like to keep Jaire. I just don't see, I know there've been talks about, that June 1st release thing to save on salary cap. I just don't see the upside to that yet. Maybe you're saving a little bit in salary cap this year. Um, but I just, if you're looking to compete this year, I just don't see the upside to releasing him. And I think Gunikis kind of, echoed that a little bit too. We've invested quite a bit in this guy. We don't just want to give him away for nothing. If he's not going to be competing on our team, we want to have a little bit of return on our investment, right? So that ROI comes into play there. But I guess in conclusion, on this, Bryson, so kind of the offseason update, let's keep Jaire Alexander and let's really put our focus in the draft on that defensive line, interior defensive lineman, as well as the edge rushers in this year's draft class. And then after that, I think you look at the wide receivers. There's great wide receivers. You can find talent in the later rounds. One of the guys that could be is that guy from Iowa State there, Bryson.
Yeah.
So Higgins, I like him a lot. So again, you dress your defensive line, and then you can go out and get a stud in the 2nd or 3rd round at wide receiver. So we'll see how the draft shakes up. Hendrickson, there's no definitive answer on him yet, although it seems like it's trending he's going to go back to Cincinnati. We'll see. But we'll keep you guys updated as we hear more. And if there's any breaking news on Jaire Alexander here coming up. But as always, Bryson,
It's go, Pat, go.
all done.